Hi, Pastor Bill. Welcome back to our study of the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount. This is lesson 4. If you haven't seen the other lessons, they're available on this channel. We're glad you are with us. So we've been studying the Beatitudes, those messages Jesus gave in front of the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are those who mourn, they shall be comforted. Beatitudes comes from Latin. It means blessed. We talk about what it means to be blessed, and then dive deeper into this Sermon on the Mount, where we talk about Jesus' greatest sermons and how he's telling us how to live as followers of his. Last lesson, we talked a lot about the law and the various laws that are in the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament, and how Jesus says he has come not to get rid of the law, but to fulfill the law. We dive further into that today. So the scribes and Pharisees calculated that the law contained 248 commandments and 365 prohibitions. But that was how they interpreted the law. And when we talk about the law, we're usually referring again to the books of Moses. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, otherwise known as the Torah. And throughout these books there are commandments, there are prohibitions, there are law. They're there. But often the scribes and the Pharisees would take a prohibition and they would flex it to their benefit or to their advantage. So when God says that you should give a tithe, 10% of your crops, they would flex that to be certain things. When God says you're supposed to take care of the elderly, take care of those people who are less fortunate, you flex it the way you want to, and we do the same thing, quite honestly. We're called to care for those in need, but so often people will try to get around that and create their own rules about it. Well, only those who are trying to help themselves, because it says that in the book, and actually it doesn't. There are things that say that people should work for their meal, but if they can't work, what happens then? And we always have to think that way. It's about grace. How do we help those who, for whatever reason, can't provide? We need to help. So we are going to look at Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 through 30. So please put me on pause, get a moment, find your Bible, and join us. Matthew 5, verses 21 through 30. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, 'Raka,' is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, 'You fool,' will be in danger of the fire of hell." And Raka is the Aramaic term for you fool. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, there is a lot to unpack in this passage. And yes, there is a lot of hyperbole and metaphor in here. So we have to be careful with it. But let's look at this. What standard does Jesus use to determine right and wrong? You think about it. Jesus goes beyond the Ten Commandments, doesn't he? Let's look at that, where it says, "You've heard it was said to the people long ago, 'You shall not murder,'" one of the commandments. "But I tell you, anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment." He takes it way beyond just doing the act of murder, but what is going on in here in our mind? What is going on inside of our heart? Well, I didn't kill anybody. But if you hate your brother or sister, you hate somebody, or you think evil thoughts about them just in your mind, that's the same as murdering them, according to Jesus. To call them a fool, to make fun of them, to call people horrible names, according to Jesus, is the same as murdering them. I want you to think really hard about that, because we have entered into a point in our society where we call people names all the time. Look at the political arena. We demonize our enemies, don't we? People do. They'll call them names. Even we've turned the terms for people's political beliefs and leanings into evil names. Conservatives and liberals, libtards, snowflakes. There's a bunch of other ones out there on both sides. I'm not going to point at one side on this, my friends, because both sides has done it. We demonize our enemies. We call them names. And somehow this has become allowed. Where it used to be, sitting around in the barber shop with the guys, maybe you call somebody a name not right, but that's one thing. Now we're doing it on social media. Now we're doing it in speeches. Now we're doing it to the entire general public. And that is wrong according to Jesus and the Word of God. I'm not making it up. It's in the book. Read it. We need to think about this. We need to think about this. Unrighteous anger. This anger we have at each other because somebody believes differently than me is related to murder, according to Jesus. Why do you think Jesus does this? What is the primary law? What is the most important commandment? It's love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, to love your neighbor as yourself. If you're calling your neighbor a bad name, insulting them, hurling insults at them, you're not loving them, are you? And if we do not love, we have nothing. An insult such as raka, and again it means fool or empty or stupid, is the same as murdering somebody. Really, really important to think about this. Really important. If you get anything from this lesson today, I hope that you get that part. That just because others in our society think it's okay to demonize enemies and to call enemies names doesn't mean we should. In fact, we should do the complete opposite. Disagree? That's fine. Think there's a different way to do things? That's great. Calling each other names? No reason for that. Absolutely no reason for that. But then look what Jesus does next. In verse 23, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, you're making your offering, and you remember you've got something against someone, leave your gift there, go and be reconciled, and then come back and present your gift. A couple of things going on here. First is, you can do all kinds of great things. If you've got money, you can write money to checks to all kinds of organizations that really need it. You can feed the poor, clothe people, do all of those things that we need to do. Educate people. There's a lot we need to do. And we can do that. And the more you have, the better you can do that. That's fantastic. But if you're doing that, but still have that spirit of hatred in your heart, you're not doing it out of love. And so Jesus says, you go to present your offering to the Lord. You're going to church and you're putting your offering in the basket. The plate's being passed around and you put your offering in, but you're angry with somebody. You're angry with the person across the aisle from you. You're angry at the pastor because he didn't do what you wanted him to do, or he did something that made you upset. You're angry at so-and-so because they did such and such. And maybe your anger is right. Maybe I didn't do something. Maybe you didn't understand something. Maybe so-and-so did insult you and you're angry with them. Jesus calls us to reconcile first. Get things right with them. Then make your offering. Because then your offering is going to come out of a pure heart, a clean heart. You did everything you can to fix the situation. I told my daughter this often when she was little and the kids were out playing. You know those things happen out there when kids are playing. I always said, what are you going to do about it? Well, so-and-so did such and such and they don't want to play anymore. I'm like, so go fix it. Make it right. Make it right. It's not always going to happen. Maybe the relationship is broken beyond reconciliation, but do your part, forgive, and move on. But make it right. Get the opportunity to get it all cleared out. And half the time it is a misunderstanding between two people. If you're a fan of the holiday Christmas romance movies, my daughter loves them. There's a couple of things, a couple of tropes that are always using them. And one of them is always, you've got the person who puts their career in front of their relationship. Then they meet the other person who puts the relationship first. And there's always like they hate each other at first, then they begin to love each other. And then the misunderstanding comes. Usually it's the ex comes back and says, oh, you're still my boyfriend, you're still my girlfriend. And like, no, we aren't going together. And then the one that you fell in love with sees this and walks away and leaves. There's always that trope. Because they don't give a person an opportunity to say, here's what's going on. And the truth is that happens all the time in life. If you're offering your gift at the altar and remember your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them. Then come and offer your gift. Make things right. Work together in the spirit of love. So verses 23 to 26 really can help us in a broken relationship. Then there's verses 27 and 28. You've heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But I tell you, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And you can take this and take it further. Murder. You thought the bad thoughts about people. Lust. Adultery. Remember Jimmy Carter? He had an interview when he first became president, and he was raked over the coals for it because he had felt that. He had lust in his heart at some point in time. He was raked over the coals. Now look at our society today. We look at that and we laugh at it. But he felt it real because he knew that it was wrong. And there's other things that we do. It's not just about that sexual relationship. There are times when you might be envious of what somebody has. And that can drive you to a state of sinfulness because your envy is ripping you apart. Somebody has a better job, better house, better car, whatever. And you get so wrapped up in the envy. Jesus is trying to tell us about how we think and how we behave. Then, verse 29, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. Now, here's where the hyperbole comes in. I don't think that we're supposed to mutilate our bodies. If your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off, throw it away. What he's saying here is that we need to be in control of ourselves, body, mind, and spirit. Think about your emotions at certain things. Why are you getting so emotional about this? Why is it making you angry or upset? We have to stop for a moment. Stop for a moment and think about, what is this causing me? Why is this making me so upset? You have to kind of take a step back. Say, what's going on here? What am I experiencing? No, I don't think he wants you to gouge your eye or cut off your hand. But we are to pay attention to these things. And why is it? Why is it that I'm thinking this? Why is it that I'm behaving this way? Why am I acting this way? And what are the dangers, the implications of this? Jesus is trying to make that very serious to us. Our actions, our thoughts are the same. Maybe you don't act out in a bad way, but you're thinking it or you're feeling it in here. Is that hatred? Is it anger? Is that extending grace to the other person the way you have been extended grace? So this week, consider your thoughts and your words. Think about what Jesus says regarding our thoughts and our words and our actions and how they're all interrelated. And how do they relate to the great commandment to love God and to love one another as you love yourself? Remember to give grace to others and to yourself as you have received grace. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this was helpful. And when we come back for the next lesson, we're going to talk about loving our enemies. See you then. Peace.